Welcome to part 2 of our mouse creation tutorial series. In the first one, what we did was we looked at some of the basic techniques for creating a mouse design. Here it is. And in the second one, what we'll do is we'll look at some bits you can do to this and then go into some of the more advanced techniques you can use to create something that looks a little bit more ergonomic and a little bit better. This one doesn't, because I rushed this one for the purposes of the tutorial, but otherwise this video would go on forever. They're long enough as it is. So let's get started and jump straight in. Right, before we jump into looking at things like the form tools, I just want to show you some bits and bobs you can do with this one. And I'll show you how to create the split line down here for the clickable buttons when we do the next one, but you could even come back and apply that to designs like this. All right, so if you are one of my students, obviously we are doing a project where we're looking at multifunctional mouse designs with removable parts and so on and so forth. And I just want to show you something you can do. If you create a design like this, you can actually hollow out this middle section and make a component that fits inside it if you want to. So with the Extrude tool, if I select a face, as you know by now, you can pull a face out and make it into 3D. But the same way as when we were creating this wheel that Fusion guessed that we were trying to do a cut, it does the same with the Extrude tool. So as you can see here, I've pushed the Extrude into the design and you can see it's gone red. And the operation over here is changed to cut. Now, what I could do is just bosh that all the way through like that and create a hollow space within my design, if that's what I was looking for. As it happens, I am. But what I also want to do is create a shape that fills this gap that could be like poked out and have additional functions on it. So I'm going to undo that. And instead of just cutting this through, I'm going to make, first of all, the component that will fit inside the space and then hollow it out afterwards, if that makes sense. You'll see what I mean when I do this. So if I get the Extrude tool, just like I did before, and I'm going to select this face, and what I'm going to do is you can either drag this through until it's level with the other edge. Now, because I've used a nice round number in my design, my mouse, if you remember, is 54 millimeters wide. I could just drag this until I can see that it's level with the edge, or rather than using distance here, I could go to object, and as you can see there in the description, it says that it extrudes to a body, face, or plane that you select. So let me just show you how that works. If yours is a funny size, I can go under here, change that to object, and click on that face, and it automatically works out the distance. So rather than doing what I did a minute ago, which was cut, what I'm going to do is change that to new body. And like when we created the scrolling wheel, this will be produced as a new entity. So let's do that and go OK. So as you can see under here now, I've got body 1, which is the main body of the mouse. But you can also see I've got body 2, which is the wheel, and body 3, which is this component here. So I'm going to turn body 3 off for now. I don't want to see it, and bring back the mouse. And now what I'm going to do is what I originally did, which was chop out this bit here. So let's change that to cut. It'll do it automatically, but let's just do that and chop it through. There we are. So we've got the hollow space inside, but if I bring body 3 back, I've got the component that fills that space. So I could color that in differently, or what I'll do to make sure that you can see that it's a separate component is select both of these faces and maybe put maybe a 1 millimeter fillet on the edges like that. There you go. So you can see now that is in there as a separate component. And if you were creating renders of this, so once you're happy with the design, you've applied all the materials, if you were working in this render workspace to create photorealistic renders, it might be a nice idea to grab this body and put it out slightly so that you can see it sticking out of the design. Or maybe even do like a completely different render where you've got the two components side by side and maybe you've added buttons to this or something. I don't know. But yeah, that's how you do that. That's how you create a hollow in the design and a component to fill it. All right, let's get on with the main event, if you like. So we're going to be using these form tools. So I'm going to create a new design. Let's save this one first and go on to a new design. So the form tools, the way they work is they try to imitate how you would work with like plasticine or something. You take an object, you take a shape, and then you sort of smush it to shape as you like. So looking up here, you can start with different types of object. You can have a ball, a cylinder, a flat plane, or in this case, we're going to use the box. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on, where do I want to put my box? Well, I'm going to do it on the top plane this time. So I'm looking down from above. You can see that because of the navigation cube. I'm going to click on the top plane, and I'm going to start at the origin. This is important. Make sure you start at the origin, not like over here somewhere, because like when we did the last one, I've got the center of this rectangle in line with this green axis, which, like before, it makes things easier when we're creating split lines, when we're creating things like the mouse roller and things like that. So to start with then, I'm going to look at these numbers on the dimensions and just make it the size that a mouse probably would be. So let's go with something like 120 long by, I don't know, 60 wide. There we go, 60 by 120 and go, okay. The next thing it asks us then is how thick do we want it? Well, at the moment it's 30 millimeters. Just looking at my mouse, I think it's probably in the region of 40 in real life. So I'm going to drag this a bit taller. Let's have a look. Am I happy with that? Yes. So that's created a block that is 60 by 120 by 40 tall. And what you can do here as well, this is interesting. If you click on this, the length faces and the width faces, you can increase this number to show a larger number of divisions in your object. And what will happen is, the more of these divisions you have, the more fine control you'll be able to have later on when you pull all this to shape. But the problem will be is the more you have, the harder it is to sort of get a sculpted, sort of smooth, organic looking design. It becomes a little bit more jagged and a little bit more difficult to kind of get a nice shape. So I'm going to go with, actually I might just keep it on 2 for the purposes of this. You can try using more, but I'm going to go 2, let's go 2 width ways. I don't know. Yeah, let's go 2 and 2. Yeah, happy with that. All right. Also, before you click OK, just make sure whatever numbers you do choose here, and you can split these faces later on if you want a particular area to be a bit more detailed, just make sure that one of the lines is on the axis, is sort of parallel to the plane, because what we'll do now is we'll use this tool here, the symmetry tool. So if I click on this, it's going to ask me to select faces. And all I need to do is select 2 faces. And what it'll do is it'll pick up the line between them and go, that's where you want to create a symmetry line. All right. So I've just clicked that one, and it's created a symmetry line. Am I happy? Yes, I am. So it's really important to have that symmetry line in line with the, if I just click on this, let's click on sketch. You'll be able to see there's the planes. These are the planes, the original planes that you can work on. And just like before, when creating the scrolling wheel, it's more convenient to have the center of your design on one of those planes. It just makes life easier. So I don't want to do a sketch. So let's come out of that. And right, so we've got a basic design. What do we do with it? So our options are all under here, under the modify tools. You can get to them by right-clicking. So I can subdivide if I wanted to, which is what I was talking to you about a minute ago, about making certain areas a little bit more detailed, but I don't want to do that. And there's other bits and bobs under here as well, which are all very useful, but I find them easier to get to by going under the modify toolbar and looking under here. So if I go modify, so the one that's at the very top of the menu, modify, and I click on any of these faces or lines or even points, I can start dragging them about. So what I might want to do, for example, is just bring the front of the mouse down towards the ground, like this. So I've selected that line there, and obviously because it's symmetrical, it's picked up this one too. And I can start using these tools to drag the design where I want, like that. And let me just show you with a face. If I grab a face instead of a line, I've got these angle rotate tools, so I can rotate the face. I can shift it up, shift it down. I can pan it about, which is like a less accurate version of using the up, down, and left, right arrows. I can drag it left and right. I can do all sorts of things. What does that do? Change the size of the face. That changes the height of the face. That changes the width of the face. So you've got lots of different options in here to start playing around with. Now, this is not something I can really sit here and teach you as such. Once you've sort of understood how to use the modify tool, it's about playing around and sculpting and just doing whatever you think works in order to create a design that looks right for you. So you might be happy with that at the front, and we might want to put some dips inside. So we might want to grab this, for example, drag that in, and then maybe that looks a bit tall and a bit square, so you might want to drag that down. So you can just play around and tweak the design until you're happy with it. But the one thing that we do need to sort of be aware of here is, yes, it's all well and good doing this stuff and stretching it about, but the base of the mouse, as you can see, is not flat at the moment. And in real life, it probably would be. So what we're going to do is we're going to just look at how to create this base or create a flat surface on this base that will help us have a more realistic design. Okay, and the first thing in understanding that is just by looking at these edges. Can you see? Let's have a look at like this one, for example. There aren't any sharp corners on these lines. The way Fusion calculates the sort of the shape of the surfaces is by making sure that every line sort of flows through a crossover point, or every surface flows through a one of these lines in a smooth way. And we don't want that. We want these lines to be kind of like a sharp creased line. So the way we do that, and I'm aware that wasn't a very good explanation, but you'll see this when we do it, is we're going to use a tool under here called, where is it? Crease. So it creates a sharp edge between faces. And if you look at the example that it shows when you hover on it, you can see exactly what I mean. It's taken that smooth edge between those lines and created a sharp transition, which is what we want. So I'm going to go crease, and it's asking me for edges. So I'm going to click this one, this one, this one, and this one. So those are the ones at the bottom of the mouse, and I'm going to go OK. There we go. So what it's done is it's created sharp edges between them, and actually, coincidentally, didn't do it like this last time I did it. It's created a flat face on the bottom of the mouse. If it doesn't create a flat face, if this is still not right for some reason, it should be, because these are the only lines defining it. And I can't remember why it didn't do it for me before. But if you want a flat face, if you've got a face that isn't flat and you want it to be flat, you can come under here and go to, where is it? Flatten. So it will take a face and it will flatten it. All right, but you can play around with that if you need it. You might not. You probably wouldn't need it. So let's look at my design. And doing the crease tool has created those edges. It looks a little bit funky. This isn't quite the shape I was going for. So again, I can come back to this modify tool, grab some of these lines and say, right, well, maybe I want to pull that in. Maybe I want to bulge that out a bit more. Drag that about. So, like I was saying, you can just play around with this as much as you want to create a shape that ultimately looks right in the end. And I'm not going to spend forever on this. I'm not going to do a fantastic design. I'm just going to play around with it enough until we've got something that looks good enough for the next stuff I want to show you. That wasn't very good English, was it? All right, there we go. And shall I leave it at that? Let's leave it at that. Boom. So under the form tools, you've got lots of stuff to play with. You can have a look and change stuff and do whatever you want in there. Now, this bottom edge, before I move on to the next bit, I am just going to fillet that bottom edge. So I'm going to come back into the fillet tool, grab that face, and stick a bit of a fillet on the bottom there, like that. Is that enough? Is that too much? That's okay. There we go. So I've just softened that bottom edge because it was a bit sharp. And there we go. There's the basic shape of my design. And by using this, by using these form tools, and if you subdivide a bit more, you can kind of play around with like thumb rests in the side, for example, or little recessed areas that you might want to put LED lighting in or something like that. I don't know. But by using these tools and playing around with it, you can get some really detailed, intricate designs. But like I say, this one is just going to be the plain boring one you see in front of you. Right then, let's make a mouse wheel really quickly. So same as we did before, I'm not going to dwell on how to do this because if you watched part 1 of my tutorial, you will have seen how to do this. So I'm just going to quickly create a scrolling wheel, finish sketch, extrude, make sure that it is symmetric, new body. It's come off. See, as soon as I started to extrude that, it's taken it off new body and put it onto cut, which is not what we want. So just be aware, if anything lights up red as you're doing it, that means that it's going to do a cut operation, which in this case is not what we want. So, okay, fillet. Let's grab those two faces. There we go. That will do. I'm happy with that. Now, there's all sorts of fancy things you could do with this. You could create a sketch on this face, for example. And in fact, why don't I show you just for the sake of doing a more advanced tutorial. If I take away, if I take away the body of the mouse, create a sketch on this face, what I can do is, will it highlight the center of that circle for me? Yes, it will. So I hovered on the edge here of this circle, and then what that means is when I come to the center of it, it should snap to that center point, and there it is. And you can see it's a center point because it's got a blue circle there. So what I want to do is from that center point is create I'm going to change my line to a construction line. Probably don't need this, but I'm just going to put it in anyway. A construction line like that, because now I've got a definite center point. In fact, I know I definitely don't need this. So let me just move on and I'll show you what I mean later on. What I'm going to do is create a series of indents for finger grips, effectively, on the edge of this. And the way I'm going to do that is by creating level with the center here. I'm going to create a little circle that just about clips into the mouse wheel, like that. And then I'm going to use, under create, a circular pattern to select, oh no, hang on, what have I done? I've used the center line tool to draw this. That's not what I wanted at all. So what I didn't do, when I grabbed the circle, I didn't change the type of line from construction line. So that's still checked. I need to uncheck that to get a normal line. So let's do that again. There we go. So it just about clips into the scrolling wheel. And what I'm going to do is go under create and go circular pattern like we did a minute ago. Object, well, this one, center point. Now, I can either click on the point at the end of that line, which is why I drew it, or, excuse me, or what I can do is click on that circle, and what it'll do is find the center of that. If I click on a circle, it understands, oh, that's the circle you want to do the pattern with. So if I select that circle, what I've got here is quantity, 3, angular spacing, full. So do I want to, what I'm telling this is I want to go all the way around this circle and put 3 of them, or 4, or 5, or 6, 7, and so on. What you could do, if you didn't want to do that all the way around, you could change that to angle, and look at what it's done. It's changed the angle to 180, so it's done that pattern just over the portion of the circle you want. So in this case, we do want the full circle. And what I'm going to do is just keep increasing this number until I am happy with it. 25, a few more. There we go. So all I'm looking at is just how many of these sort of crossovers there are. And I'm happy with that. Good. There we go. So in a second, what I'm going to do is do an extruded cut to cut those indents into that face. Before I do that, though, I'm going to get the trim tool and just cut out the middles. So I can do it all as one shape, rather than having to try and extrude every single little bit and select every one. Whoops. What I can do is just do the whole lot in, do the whole lot in one go and cut it. Oh, okay, this is being a pain. So weirdly, with the trim tool, sometimes I can just click and drag across, and other times it'll take away the bits of the line that I do want. So you have to sort of click them one by one. So what I'll probably do is, if I'm having to do that anyway, is just do it the slow way, because it's not actually going to save me any time. So let's go extrude. I want to extrude that, but I also want to extrude that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and that, and so on and so forth. So let me just select these. There we go. and drag them this way. See, it's automatically gone red because it's worked out that it's intersecting with this body, and it thinks I want to cut them, which I do. So let's go OK. Give it a second to catch up. There we go. Look at that. So it just creates a bit of texture on the mouse wheel. And, you know, it's not one of those things that's essential to do, but if we're in the business of doing more advanced techniques, then that might be something that you want to do. Right then, the last thing I'm going to show you, I'm not going to talk about textures and renders and things like that. We touched on that in the first part of the tutorial, and if you've done any of my other tutorials like the cordial bottle design, there's videos to do with rendering in there, so you can go and have a look at those. But the last thing I'm going to do here is show you how to create the split for the clickable buttons. I could go into details about how to create a molding split line along here and how to take this apart in separate pieces, but I think for the purposes of the project that this tutorial is aimed at, we don't really need to do that. As long as it looks right, we'll be fine. So, making the split line for the clickable buttons, what we need to do is do a drawing up here somewhere in the air and then cut down into this body here. All right, so what we need is a plane to draw on that is up above. I don't want to draw on this top plane, because if I draw on this plane that's level with the base here, I'd have to cut all the way through the design, and I don't want to do that. So I need a new plane. The way I'm going to do that is if I hover on construct up here, you can see the very first icon is offset plane, which creates a construction plane that is offset from the selected face or plane, which is what we want. So click that. I'm going to select the top plane, and I'm just going to drag that up until I am above my mouse. It doesn't matter where, as long as I'm above the top of the mouse, that's fine. And go OK. And as you can see, that plane is visible. And if I go under construction, there it is. There's a plane. I can turn it on and turn it off as I want. It's added it over here. So then, let's get a sketch. Let's sketch on that plane. And what I'm going to do, first of all, there's a couple of ways you could do this. And there might even be there probably is a better way to do this than the way I'm about to do it. But this is the one that I've learned how to do, so this is what I'm going to show you. So I'm going to draw this just as a line to begin with. So I'm going to do a line down the center, like this, to where I want the end of the mouse buttons to be. Oh, because it's so far above, it doesn't help me to change the angle. So I'm just going to make a mental note of where I think it's going to come to. Yeah, we'll go with that. And like before, I'm only going to do one side because I can use the mirror tool to copy it. So like when we made this, we only really worked on one side of this, and everything we did to one side, it did to the other. And that is the same case with this. So I'll show you what I mean. Let's go to the arc tool, and I'm just going to do several arcs to create the effect I'm looking for. Nope, that's not what I wanted to do. I'm going to just start with a short horizontal line there, just to make sure that when this is mirrored that I've not got a point here. And let's go to the arc tool again, 3-point arc. And let's curve it to, let's say, there. There we go. And bring that, what did I do? Bring that up to, let's say, there. There we go. Kind of happy with that. I might smooth out that corner using the fillet tool. Let me zoom in. There we go. Just create a smooth transition. So before I move on to the next stage, I'm just going to go and grab the mirror tool up here. Select that. Select this, and select this line. And where do I want to mirror it? So let's check mirror line and click on that line. Oh, I've missed one, haven't I? So let's go back there and pick that one up. One thing just to note about the mirror line is, let's say, for example, I wanted to choose the objects I wanted to mirror, and I just did this. The problem is, because I've got this line selected as one of the lines I want to mirror, I don't think I can then select it as the mirror line. See, it doesn't let me do it. So just make sure when you're selecting the lines that you want to mirror, that you don't pick up accidentally the one that you're going to use as the mirror line. So let's do that. Boom, there we go. Right, so I've got a line. I can't do an extrude with that line yet. So what I need to do is add a bit of thickness to it. So let's look from above. Then I'm going to use this tool here under Modify. It's called the Offset tool. And you'll see what it does when I select the line. So I'm going to click this line. And can I click that one? No. I have to do that one after. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to decide whether I want to do this on the outside or the inside of this line. I'm going to go on the inside, I think. And I'm going to go by 0.5 millimeters. Oh, hang on. If it goes on the wrong side when you do that, just click minus, put a minus in. There we go. So 0.5 millimeter, that's probably too much actually. Let's go 0.3 and hit OK. And then I'm going to do the same with the other side. So 0.3 millimeters. Cancel. Hang on. It's picking up this line, which I don't want it to do. So how do I stop it doing that? What I'm going to do to stop it picking up this line at the same time is I'm just going to get my trim tool and trim away that little bit. There we go. In fact, actually, if I've done that now, this would all select as one line, won't it? Oh, I could have done the whole thing in one go, probably. But I'm just going to go minus 0.3. And, yep, I'm happy with that. There we go. And I also just noticed as well, I'll show you now, if I do the same on this line here. Oh. Why is it doing this? Why is it picking that up? Strange. Oh. For some reason, it's picking that line up at the same time, which I don't want to do. Maybe if I select just that line first and then click on offset. Ah, there we go. So because I selected the line first before I clicked on offset, it did what I wanted. But before, when I was trying to select the offset tool first and then select the line, it was picking up this bit as well, which I don't want it to do. But you can see here, look, there's a flip side button. So rather than typing minus before, I could just click that button and it effectively does the same thing. So let's go with here. I'm going to go with the same split width or the same line width. So I'm going to go half of the gap that I had before. So I need to go 0.15, which is obviously half of 0.3. Go OK. As you can see, it's put that line there. And I'm going to do the same now, the other side, and put 0.15. But this time, hit the flip side button, and there we go, it's the other side. So it just keeps it central. You could probably get away with just doing it one side, but if you're picky, you'd always know it's starting off center, and it would bug you like it would me. So I can rub out this middle line now using the trim tool. And I'm going to do the same down here, get rid of that bit, get rid of that bit. So I've effectively got a very, very, very thin shape that I can do an extruded cut with. But just be aware, before you do, it will only do it with a closed shape. And if I zoom in on these ends, you can see that they are not joined. So you'll just need to come into the get the line tool, sorry, and then click between the two ends, there and there and there, just to make sure that we've got a completely closed shape. And you'll notice it will change color when we do. So let's just do that. There we go. Just kind of put a bit of a blue fill on it so you can see that it is a shape. And if you're really picky, I'm not going to bother, but you could put curves in these corners, put fillets in those corners to just smooth them out. I said I wasn't going to do it, but now I've started it, I might as well. Select all those points. And there we are. It's put a fillet of 0.15 on all of them to make it nice. All right, let's finish the sketch and go back to the extrude tool. And I already have the shape selected, so it's picked that up. And look, you can see this is what I meant before when I extrude things. It thinks I'm making a new body until it intersects with something else. And there you go, it changes red and creates a cut. So there's a couple of ways you can even do this bit. So I'm doing this just as a cut, which means I have deep cuts there and shallow cuts there. You could, if you wanted to, if you've watched the cordial bottle tutorials that I did before, you'll see that I did where is it? I did an emboss. You could probably do it as an emboss. Where is emboss? Why can't I find it? There it is. So you could take these profiles and emboss them into that surface. Okay, that's not working. It's strange. It seems to work with a surface that's curved in one direction, but when you have these sort of compound curved surfaces, the emboss tool, for some reason, doesn't seem to work. I'd be interested to know why, if anyone knows. So I won't do that. But let's just do that. Cut it into the surface. Just make sure the lowest point at the front gets cut. Go OK. And there we are. We've got that split line on the mouse, indicating where we've got those buttons. And oh dear, did not want to do it. Okay, if you get this happen, let's just look at how to stop that. So let me go undo. What I'm going to do is turn off body 2, get rid of it, hide it, and then chop that like that, and then bring back body 2. There we go. And what I could do as well, if I wanted to, was when I'm looking from above and creating this shape for the split line, I could, if I go undo, am I back in the sketch? Let me edit that sketch. And let's turn the wheel back on. In fact, let's turn the mouse off so I can see the entirety of the wheel. You could, actually I'm going to bring it back on. You could create a rectangle like this that goes just around the mouse wheel. So let's have a look at how wide that is. I want that 4mm wide, I think. So I'm just going to do that. Change that to 4mm wide. The problem was, when it cut into there a minute ago, it didn't actually create a cutout for the mouse wheel. It looked a little funny. I should have explained that before I started doing it. But this is a kind of off-the-cuff sort of tutorial, hence why I'm a bit rambly. There we go. So I've got it the same height. Now, you'll notice what I did there. When I was drawing a rectangle, I hovered on this edge, because what happened was, when I was drawing this, if I hover on this edge, it works out that I'm trying to do something parallel to it and at the same length as it. So it just saves me doing another one of these measurements later on. So let's make this one 4 as well. And let's fillet these 4 corners. And it'll just create, that's fine. It'll just create some, a more realistic effect with the design. So what I'm looking at here is where the body of the scrolling wheel crosses with the body of the actual mouse itself. As you can see, it's kind of along this edge here, this line here. Hard to see, but I'm just looking to make sure that that cutout sort of looks right in relation to that. So let's go. Let's not finish sketching it. Let's cut that away. There we go. So that's now all one shape. And go finish sketch. There we are. So this time, if I do the same thing as we did before with the extruded cut, like that, and go OK, and I've chopped away my thing again. Same problem. Should have learned my lesson. Chop it like that. OK. Make sure I haven't gone through the mouse entirely. Bring back the wheel. And there we go. So you can see the mouse wheel sits within a recess within the design, like that. And the only thing left for me to do now would be to apply materials to this, and so on and so forth. The one thing I will show you when it comes to materials is, and I know I said I wasn't going to do this, but if I go to appearance, this is something I didn't show you in the other tutorials, and I didn't show you in the bottle tutorial that might be useful for this project, is to use materials that actually glow. So let's say I wanted my mouse wheel to be, let's say, I don't know, see-through plastic that glows. What I can do is I can come up to plastics in my materials, or glass. Let's go glass. Let's go textured. Let's go, I want a coloured one really. Let's go green glass and drag that onto the whole body. There we are. What I can do is I can right click on this and go edit, and edit my material as I would with any other material. But crucially, if I come under advanced, I have this option. Where is it? Let me have a look. I can't see it. Why can't I see it? Maybe you can only do it with certain materials. But there is a radiance option that allows you to actually choose how much this lights up. I'm not going to go and fuss with it now because I haven't done the research on this. I thought you could do it with every material, but apparently not, unless I'm missing something. No, I don't know. But yeah, there's certain materials where you can actually change how radiant they are, how much they glow, and it doesn't really look any different in here. It might make them a bit paler, but when you go to the render workspace, you'll be able to actually create parts of your design that are glowing. If you wanted to put like RGB features, for example, on a computer mouse. But if you're one of my students, what I will do is I will go and have a look at how to do that in a bit more detail. Make sure I know what I'm on about, and then I will discuss that with you in lesson. All right, so in terms of this tutorial, I think we are finished. So we've covered the form tools, how to create this cutout. We looked at how to do creases on these edges and how to do circular patterns and things like that. So I think that's enough for you to be getting on with for now. I have rambled way too long. And again, I'm sorry for the rambly nature of this tutorial, but this was kind of unplanned and off the cuff. So hopefully it was useful. And if you're trying to do this and you haven't looked at the first tutorial, I recommend you go back and have a look at that because that will help clarify some bits that we're using in here. All right, see you in the next one.